Alright. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Guess the MMR, where I'm going to be trying to guess the MMR of a bunch of players and seeing if I can get it within 200 MMR, which is a pretty damn narrow margin. But there's no rules anymore after those early episodes where I had crazy restrictions and I was way off. We were much closer last week, so let's see how we go. We're guessing Brisket's one, and this one is a player from the EU ladder, a Terran player. And we're going to be keeping our eyes. So let's just go on Brisket's camera. They are playing a Terran vs. Zerg vs. Dzors. It's going to be going for a quick 14 pool and gas extractor trick. Interesting. Anyways, let's focus on Brisket's camera here and keep an eye on the build order. Looks like a pretty clean barracks gas so far. So a pretty organized build order. That definitely puts us lowering the depot, keeping up a CV production. This feels pretty damn good. You can see the control groups over there as well. This all looks reasonably solid, so I'm already thinking we're at least Platinum League, but let's take a look. Now, of course, guys, last week, like I said, we were way closer than before. We took away all the crazy restrictions of like only getting to watch part of the replay, no rewinding, no pausing, all that sort of stuff. And they were all within less than 400 MMR off. One of them I got within the 200 MMR range, so plus minus 200 of the player's MMR counts as a win. But still, I still felt pretty bad at the end of it, because like, dude, at the end of it, it was like, okay, I've done 3 episodes and I've only actually guessed 3. Each episode I've got 1 correct and had 2 wrong. So I'm hoping today we can turn that around. I feel like I'm getting better at it. I'm kind of like gauging the player's skill level, and then I'm adding somewhere between 300 and 500 MMR, or minusing, maybe not minusing, just adding MMR if their strategy is also particularly effective as well. Things like if you go battle cruisers, or if you do like aggressive attacks, or you do just effective strategies like charge lot timing attacks that just punch above their weight, I'm going to add MMR for that. So I've got my tactics, I've got my strategy, and I'm bloody motivated to actually get this one right. So far, guys, we've got control groups to the command centers, the rally points are being set, the barracks rally across the map, there's an SCV scout. We don't have a control group on that SCV, nor on the Reaper. So you can see that's making our control really awkward. The Reaper still does not have a control group. And, in fact, it's not stopping to defend these Zerglings, which is a massive noob move, because that means our command center, if we lose this SCV on the command center, we're in big trouble. So Brisket right now is really playing super risky. Now brings the Reaper home, realizing his folly. Oh no, this is a disaster. Factory has also been delayed about 20 seconds here. We went reactor before factory, which is super unusual. And oh man, and now a command center is going down on the high ground, but this one's being delayed massively. And this is a huge screw up. Lots of chaos here. So the moment the pressure starts, we get to see the player making tons of mistakes. No SCVs or mules dropping right now. The Reaper still has not come back here. It's sitting just in the natural, not fighting right now. Oh my God, finally he moves it over there. Okay. So I was saying at least Platinum with how tight the opening was. But the moment there's been adversity, it's like, I feel like we're bouncing around and doing lots of things, but it's very disorganized. And it was a really bad decision to just not deal with those lanes with the Reaper from the start and instead go across the map. So we're swapping the factory over. We do have an SCV building, but right now a gap in the SCV production, trying to build a bunker, not a bad idea. You don't know what's coming behind this. Oh, speaking of which, jump to the high ground, jump to the high ground. No, don't start a step. Oh my God, the classic muscle memory. Oh, I'll start a step. No. So it's fine. Lift the command center, get to the high ground in macro. You're not building anything. Fancy SCV pick up into the command center, get to the high ground, go macro, go look at the main base, go look at the main and build SCVs, go build SCVs, take the second gas, build more buildings. Oh, Brisket is super distracted right now, and we've all been there and kind of gotten this tunnel of like making mistakes. And when you're under aggression, especially weird aggression, because this was not 12 pool, but this was also not a 16 or 17 pool, it was a 14 pool. So I think something about that odd timing has thrown Brisket off, and you can see Brisket's really struggling. So looking at this, I'm thinking it could be Diamond 3, just because like the aggression is throwing you off. Yes, you made a really bad decision, which, you know, is more of a gold or gold league thing, like gold 1. But overall, mechanically, I don't know. It does feel like there's enough bouncing around going on to be probably, I'm thinking in the Platinum 2 range, just in terms of the general awareness. But like, what do we got? We got a Banshee, we're building some Hellions. The lack of control groups tells us we're an F2 player, but F2 players make it to GM as well, if they're just clever enough in what they do. Lowers a depot, creating a bit of an awkward angle, but he's gonna move out now. I'm saying he, I don't really know Brisket's a he. Just, I don't know, so it's a manly cut of meat. It's very fatty, I guess. I don't know. It's very delicious. I love a bit of brisket. Anyways, 3 CCs are up. There is a chance to get back in this game, but of course, if Brisket wants to play mech, the gases are so delayed on the natural, that's going to be awkward. Needs to get like more barracks up, needs to transfer workers and all this sort of stuff. So Brisket really needs to like lower this depot, transfer workers, change rally points, and get their economy set up. But look, another Ling Run by comes in, and this is such a tough game for Brisket because it's like Brisket keeps wanting to do damage and he's just getting smashed at home. Hasn't moved the Banshee down to respond to that. And this is, of course, players who don't use control groups do often struggle with this stuff. Man, these Hellions should really, if you're going to micro this, you should get in there and kill all the drones right now. But, oh my god, look, there's a rally of drones right there. Come on, that's so tempting. It's so tempting. Surely we're going to roast these drones, right? Brisket looking so tentative with these Hellions. Finally going in and getting some kills. Okay, roast some drones, and then you can just run these away. The multitasking. Oh my god, we never said anything to deal with this. Oh my god, the Banshee's moving across the map, still not mining off our natural, and it feels like just the lockdown things, get your macro done, go back to micro. Get your macro, go back to micro. The juggling of where to put the actions is sinking this from what I said Diamond 3 earlier, more to Plat 3. Plat 1, Plat 2, Plat 3, Gold 1, you know? So I'm thinking we're probably about Plat 2. Just because it's like, well, overall you are still spending. Bam, we're dropping the mules. Bam, we set the rally points. Bam, we queued up some SCVs on all our commands. And it's like, there are these moments where there's some really good batching going on. But at the same time, there's moments where whenever the opponent disrupts us, you can tell that Brisket's kind of losing track of what should be getting looked at and that sort of stuff. And obviously doing some good counter damage here, just absolutely keeping us in a decent spot in this game. So overall, APM is at about 100 average. I mean, you can tell there's like some decent micro with the units in terms of like moving and shooting and stuff, but there's definitely no exceptional micro. Hellions are going to move across the map now. Banshee's doing massive damage. For some reason, the opponent still hasn't moved to Spore Crawler over here, so we might even kill the third base. But I'm really looking for, like, when is Brisket going to look at home and fix the macro, right? We've got double tech lab, we've got some add-on swaps, but, like, you've got 2k minerals. There should be, like, 6 barracks, 2 engineering bays, gases on the natural, land the third. There should be, like, a lot of batching up the macro tasks to catch up for how far behind Brisket is right now. Brisket building 3 depots on the natural, but still no real spending at home, right? So the thing is, this is, like, one of these games where you both just let yourselves constantly get distracted in tunnel vision on these really unimportant unit interactions, and the bigger your bank is, the more that's costing you, right? Building 1 engineering bay, selecting another SCV, building another engineering bay, it's a very inefficient way of doing that, right? We could be build 2 E-bays, build 6 barracks all at once, and at no point is this batching coming in to fix that macro. So hey, you've got some decent worker counts, you're going to transfer some workers, like these are good things. You desperately need the gases. There we go. Brisket's getting back on track, but it's just taking a long time, right? And the thing is, let's be real, once those Banshees went across the map, there hasn't really been any pressure. So it's like, the less pressure there is, the less distractions from the opponent interrupting you, the easier it should be to fix this stuff up. We're building a random turret behind the natural. I'm not sure what that's about. And on the edge of the main. That's super random. That's really weird, because they're not in the mineral lines. That's not going to really defend you against mutas too well either. Still only on a couple of barracks right now, but we've got stim shields going to 5 barracks. Double engineering bays getting the upgrades. Surprisingly haven't floated the third out yet. And you can imagine, like in this game, you want to, like, you got so much money, you want to take a 4th and a 5th and all that. Nidus in the main! But he hasn't noticed it. He hasn't noticed it. That was me that looked at that, guys. But how come Brisket's camera? Brisket has not noticed the Nidus. Let's see how quickly Brisket reacts when this Nidus pops. 3, 2, 1. Okay. F2, A move into the main. Absolutely the correct response there. The SCVs should be pulling to the natural. Box all those SCVs and run them. Box the SCVs and run. Don't lose the mineral line for no reason. Oh no, we're going to lose that whole mineral line. It's a bit of a bummer. The SCV is not getting pulled. The tank siege is in a good spot. The units, it looks like maybe they weren't A moved, but I mean, the barracks are going to hold back the enemy well enough, and it looks like it's going to be a meat grinder. The Zerg did not pop that much stuff out here. I think the Zerg's been like a bit too far behind for too long, so it looks like we will be able to defend. This should be game from here. And yeah, I gotta say, lack of control groups, lack of really being able to just like reassert control, bit slow to clean things up, the weird, really bad reaction to the Lings at the start with the Reaper, where that should be 101 over Reaper expand and an SCV scout. The whole point is if they're not going hatch first, you keep the Reaper at home or just go straight to those Zerglings. I'm thinking Plat 2 right now. So let's look at our MMR ranges, right? So we've got Plat 2, and by the way, I only have ranges showing up on my website. I know the seasons have just rolled. Plat 2 should be about 2,900 MMR. Even though this is EU and sometimes it's slightly different, I'm just going off the general NA1, and it's usually so close between the two regions until you get to very high levels, like GM anyway, that it should be close enough. So I'm thinking about 2,900 Plat 2. Let's see. The problem is now we're so far ahead, so we're not getting to see any like big army control, because honestly, the control Brisket's doing is F2 stim A move, but that's the right control in these situations, right? There's nothing else that needs to be done there. Sieging a tank is pretty nice, all that sort of stuff. I do like that there's like changing the rally point going on, remembering to build an armory. We can tell also that Brisket doesn't really have any conception of what to do after 5 barracks, 2 engineering base, because has been floating 2k minerals for a long time. Remember I said, why not build an extra 4 or 5 barracks? Drop a 4th base, drop a 5th base, drop a 6th base. Brisket could afford to do all those things right now. But most Terran players, all the way through to about Diamond 2, but especially in Platinum League and below, they really don't have any plan past the 2 base production stage of 5 barracks, a factory, a starport, and they tend to hang out there for a really long time. I also noticed that there's no like urgency on the activity for Brisket, right? Because Brisket's kind of just like reeling from these attacks, there's no like, bam, grab a drop, send it to the main. Bam, grab a drop, send it to the 3rd, or grab the army, go for a big counter attack. And I mean, you could argue just getting on top of your macro is the more important task here, but I don't feel like that's happening at lightning pace. So it really, to me, feels like, okay, we should give a bit of free room. I'm criticizing Brisket like they're in gold 3, gold 2, but they've been under the gun of the aggression, which easily puts them in platinum. They could be diamond 3, potentially, but I'm thinking, I'm really just, I've got a good feeling about Plat 2, guys. 2,900 is what I'm feeling. I think we're good. I think that's absolutely it. So let's go back to everyone's camera. Let's just take a look. So it looks like the Zerg is at 52 workers, way behind on upgrades, equal workers, has a little bit of creep spread, but not very much. Is going Ling Bane, but has forgotten to make Baneling speed. And Baneling speed is obviously what would crush a Marine army. And a lot of Terran players, they play bio, but they don't have any urgency on their pushes. And they tend to get wiped by speed Banelings on creep really hard because they just don't pre-spread their units. So we'll see if Brisket prepares for that. He won't get punished either way just because D-Saws literally doesn't have Bane speed and just has a way smaller army at half the size, where I think Brisket can stim a move on creep. But let's look at how Brisket sets this up. Brisket's not scanning ahead of the army, no scouting ahead of the army, no awareness at all. That scan doesn't really see. If an army was coming from the south or the right, the screen isn't even looking. So there is zero setup on the army, no pre-spreading at all. Really bad army setup. Just on the fundamental level, Brisket's just stimming in a giant clump on creep. If Speedbane's rocked up right now, he'd just lose his whole army, or he'd just have to try to run and load up in the medevacs would be his only play. So this is really, really bad army control, and that puts me closer to Plat 3 in terms of like, hey, we're just stimming on creep, blind. The scan should have been much further to the right, looking for where the Zerg army was, and there's no real micro going on, or nothing effective, right? It's literally just stimming, nothing else at all. So this is, I'm taking this down from Plat 2 to Plat 3, guys. This here has definitely, I mean, I see Diamond players do this as well with their army all the time, but I'm thinking lower end of Plat 2 now. I'm thinking maybe we go to 2,800 MMR. Maybe. I don't know. There is still, I mean, the fact that there was proper production order, even if it was done messily in this aggressive game, there was production order, right? And that it was 3 racks, 2 eBays, 5 racks. That's proper build stuff, right? Even though there was money floating and they should have gone off build, the fact that they're following kind of correct orders tells me Brisket's not too bad. Brisket's got the game now, hasn't really looked at home in a minute or two, but does get the win. I think I'm gonna lock in. I'm not gonna lower the MMR too much because I've seen so many even Masters Terrans just run their army on creep and not even scan ahead. Like it's like the fundamental rule of, if you're a real Terran player, you literally throw away your lead all the time. This is like what you have to do to be a proper Terran. All right, guys, so I'm locking in 2850 MMR, which is like right around Plat 2, Plat 3 border region. I think it's about there. Yeah, Plat 2, Plat 3. I think I've got a good feeling about this, guys. So we're gonna lock in 2850 MMR. We dropped at 50 just because of the lack of vision or pre-spreading or anything on those Marines at the end. Let's see how we did. Yes! Yes! 2805. I said 2850. Oh, yes! I knew I was improving at this. I watched all of last week's episode in preparation for this as well to hone in my skills and remember my instincts. So bloody close. 45 MMR off. I think that's the closest one so far. That's just bam. Bam. I'm telling you guys, we're going to get 3 out of 3 today. It's happening. All right, guys, I'm feeling good about that. Let's go into the next game. We're going to be trying to guess Bolt's MMR in this game. Protoss player in the bottom left playing a PVZ up against Infu. Now, looks like they sent a first probe down and built a pylon on 14. But actually, wait. Hold up. Instant rewind, guys. Instant rewind. What did we just see? First of all, probe split on the workers there. They pulled 2 workers to the bottom. Now, they are rallying their first worker to the low ground, which is normally pretty good, but you should always have an extra probe queued up, which they do. Okay, and it should be 14 pylon on the low ground. Now, they're not doubling up workers on these 2 top patches. Bolt is not, so that means they are missing out on a bit of mining optimization. Pylon goes down, but then cancels it. And, okay, very specific pylon placement. Really has an idea about how the wall wants to go. I could argue that's bad because obviously they misexecuted it, but I could also argue it's good because they clearly have a plan and attention to detail. Extra probe queued up here is really good, and we want to see a gateway and then a chrono as quickly as possible. Gateway, chrono, oh yeah, and rallying the probe to build the gas geyser. This is some pretty good shit right now, guys. This is looking like much higher level than the last game. Gas goes down, cues it back to minerals, rally points back on the minerals. Do we have a control group for the gateway? Oh, they do. Okay, now the Nexus is on control group 1, which is I'm like a little iffy about that. But the probe scout even has a control group as well. Oh man, and they're queuing that path. Did you guys see how quick they just did the shift click on the queue to make sure their probe does a circuit of the main? And this is looking like high level play. All right, so at least Diamond League already just from this opening. It could be Diamond 3 technically, depending on how quickly things cascade once stuff goes bad. But right now I'm feeling like this is probably a Masters game. Nexus goes down right on 400 minerals, pauses probe production until the Cybercore starts. Yep, correct play. This is a crisp, proper opening right here. And immediately goes back to gas. And then is like, okay, builds a probe. Should be taking a second gas geyser right now. He's using the builder probe, so it's a few seconds late. It doesn't really matter too much. Should queue 1 more probe and then build a pylon. Oh, no, we went pylon earlier than needed. Delayed the probe by 2 seconds. Very minor optimization fail there. It's not a big deal. Probe's still hanging around on the other side of the map. Now, we weren't really harassing with the probe much or looking around with it too much, and we're sending it home. So the problem with this is that means we didn't check if they were saving lava. So there could be 6 Zerglings building in that main right now. So we are actually a little vulnerable up against Zergling all-ins. But Chrono the Adept, Chrono the probes again. We've got 3, 3, and now 16 on minerals, and we should be rallying probes to the natural already. So Bolt isn't doing that yet. It could just be a choice thing. It's going to go Twilight Council. So this is very high level play. But the Adept sitting at home and no second Adept. Oh, that's a little low level. So the thing is, like I said, I mean, you could argue this keeps you safer, right? Because your unit's at home, so you're not taking any risks. But I would argue that it's actually kind of shit because you're not scouting. So if you get Bane busted, you're just going to lose 100% with the build that Bolt's doing right here because you have no vision. So if your opponent just stays on gas, 2 base Bane bust, 2 base Ravager, Ling all in, I think with this build order Bolt's doing, you're going to die to that 100% of the time. Now, on the other hand, how often do people do that on the ladder? You might play a month without anyone doing that, just depending on the opponents you're playing, the strategies they're favoring. Pros never do that stuff. Or very rarely, because at pro level, the Protoss are almost always opening Stargate. We probably should see it more on maps like Berlin, Grad, like the small maps where people open Glaive Adepts a lot more. Anyways, looks like we're going to see a pretty crisp Archon drop build. Gateway's going down. A bit of cut on the probe production, which you can argue 2 things about that. Number 1, shitty play, you're not building probes. Or number 2, you just really want to get these gateways down on time. I would argue probes should probably be continuing building there. And the Robo is so early that Bolt is even cutting more probes here to get the Prism out and immediately chronos it. This is a pretty tight build. Only 2 gateway units, which is okay, but because there was no Adept scouting, that's what was risky with this opening, guys. Pylon goes down. It should be non-stop probe production. Hello? There we go. And now it should be after that, gas, and then 2 more pylons. This is a pretty good build order. Besides the lack of Adept scout and the lack of the probe double checking for them saving lava for the spawning pool to finish, I think Bolt's in a pretty good spot. Now, the Stalker, if it goes out to hunt that Overlord, you can get punished by Speedlings. So Bolt's not going to focus on that just yet. Bolt does have the 2 gases. Wait, 2 more pylons, right? Yeah, pylon and pylon are going to finish in time to warp in DTs. Does need to put workers on gas, and could even do that ahead of time would be good. This is what I'm talking about. You can get punished if you move out there with the Stalker. Gets the Overlord, which is all right, but you're going to lose that Stalker now, and this is distracting from the DT warp in that should already be happening. Bolt did not queue the DT up. The siege up on the warp prism as well, so that's a little thing. I would have queued that to siege up. We're thinking Masters 2 though, maybe Masters 1 even here for Bolt so far. This is 4 minutes 50, hitting with 4 Dark Templar. I win games automatically in GM sometimes with this, just because people haven't played against it in a little while, and it looks like Bolt is going to hit this timing. But what's the follow-up? Bolt has not sent a probe to the 3rd, only has 1 adept, which means he can't move a unit out to secure said 3rd base. He's going to split his DTs up. Bolt is doing a pretty fantastic amount of damage here. Now, what I'd advise is just pulling the DTs back, morphing Archons, but is going to try and sneak a DT in. And where is the follow-up? Still no follow-up. So you can see that Bolt is kind of tunnel visioning on this damage, is getting a lot of it. Oh my god, the DT, the main's doing so much. Oh my lord, Bolt queues that DT up to do damage and then just looks at home, drops the 3rd Nexus. It's quite late, like I said before, and there's no real structures. Like, we need like Immortals building, pylons. We're warping in Zealots, but there's no charge, there's no forge. So the follow-up is really sloppy for Bolt. However, the Zealots kind of make sense. It allows you to defend this base. The Prism coming all the way home, not really necessary. You could definitely stay on the other side of the map and get some more scouting and harassment, but this is going to be a little bit safer. We've got a 2nd Robo and a Forge. Bolt, I mean, I think Bolt watches my stream. This is how I like to play this. It's always the 3rd base and the 2nd Robo. The Observer is missing. Normally you'd want an Observer for some vision. An extra DT warps in. I mean, this is pretty much game over at this point. I mean, Bolt is going to destroy this Ling attack. As playing really... The opponent's playing way faster, but Bolt's more methodical, so... I mean, the problem here is that there's no adversity. And this is always the thing that I want to see is like, well, how do you react if the opponent did a 20 Zergling pressure against your just Adept Stalker grouping? How quick does Bolt wall off? If Bolt actually needs to do some fancy reactions, like right now, Bolt is following a build order quite well. And chronoing well and macroing well, but like, does this hold up when you have to react to things? I always feel like with Protoss players especially, your fundamental macro mechanics are the easiest of any of the races, right? It's the microing your units because you have very small number of units that you need to get value out of, right? With Protoss, like in the early, it's the reactions where I always talk about Protoss is the strategy race. You need to scout and like keep your finger on what your opponent's doing and react accordingly to be a really high level Protoss player. Bolt hasn't been put in that situation where Bolt has to show that really high level play. Bolt's shown a tight build order and has done pretty good with it, but that's only going to take you so far. Like if you're hitting really sharp, defined timing attacks, it can take you all the way to mid GM. Don't get me wrong, and even beyond there potentially. Zest. Obviously, I think Zest became a lot more flexible in the latter years of his career before going to the military recently. But I do think he was an example of a player you could tell his build was kind of defined before the game even started. And I think that actually takes you really far without having to be necessarily as high level reactive as someone like Stats or Trap, who sometimes isn't as consistent as the guy who just defines the build beforehand, but when they are on point, they are just peak level. So right now, we've been sitting at home with no vision, no observer, no hallucinations. This lack of scouting definitely drops this below GM in my opinion. And now we're warping in 5 Stalkers for God knows why. To kill a single Overlord. We don't have Blink. We're doing a Zealot Archon Immortal style. Stalkers are not a useful unit. So we can tell that Bolt had a tight opening where everything went their way. But as I watch this more and more, I'm like, we're just sitting there. What if 20 Mutas fly in right now? We lose the game, right? We've given our opponent minutes on end. We have no observer on the map. We've got an observer just sitting at home. I mean, we're not getting stormed. This attack is not that quick. We've almost let it to get to 9 minutes. We're going to stumble into their army. Oh, hello, we're going to watch the army, mate. Watch the army. Is not really watching the army, but it's just got enough units to A-move through. So I really feel like Bolt doesn't have that advanced unit control, right? It feels to me like Bolt is just kind of like, yeah, just follow the plan and go for it. And it's working well in this game, but I think if the Zerg wasn't so far behind, this sort of attack micro and movement and lack of scouting and the big gap between the early DT pressure in this push gave the Zerg enough opportunity to get back in the game. So I think the big problem there is if the Zerg goes mutas, like I said, you're in trouble. If the Zerg just re-droned really quickly, dropped to 3rd and 4th, bam, bam, got up a big Ravager Bane army, they could have out-microed this. It feels like Bolt here had a very, very clean, pristine game. And for me, I'm really worried about this guess because it's so hard to say in a game where the opponent is just dead from the first tight pressure. And like I said, I see that happen in GM as well. So many Zergs are so used to playing against Stargate, they just don't know how to deal with an Archon drop or a really well-executed Glaive Adept pressure because it's not as common for most of them on the ladder. So this makes it really tough for me because I'm like, well, I have a big inclination, though, that Bolt drops from that GM level execution down to about Diamond 1 execution when the game doesn't go Bolt's way. We're going to have to split the difference. I think I'm going to have to go for Masters 2. I'm thinking Masters 2. I think we lock in about 4,500 MMR here. Maybe that's Masters 3. How about 40? If I think about the players I play on the ladder... Oh my god, I'm so torn! I'm so torn on this one, guys. All right, if I think about the players that I play on the ladder, right? Masters 2 is like 4,550 to 4,700. I'm thinking let's just go 4,625, kind of smack bang in the middle of Masters 2. Yeah, I mean, this player could be Masters 1 or above. They could be Diamond 1. It's such a big range, I know. Almost 1,000 MMR range. I'm just going to split the difference, chuck them smack bang in the middle because we just didn't get to see them having to react to many things. There was no Ling run by breaching the natural wall. There was no, oh, you've quickly got to spread versus the Banelings or do this or that. So the control groups were good, the systems were good, the build was good, but no adversity that we didn't really get to put them through the fire. One of the hardest replays, so I don't mind if I'm off by 3, 4, 500 MMR on this one. We're going to lock in 625 MMR. We're locking that in. 4625. Let's see. Come on. 4625. No! So far off. It was much more in the Diamond 1 region. Damn it. You win some, you lose some, guys. So we were off by about 700 MMR on that one. But this is what happens. I don't even feel bad about this. This is actually just like one of the hardest replays to judge because it's like I saw inclinations, they were lower level. I guess I probably could have dropped it to Masters 3. I said it could maybe be Diamond 1, but that was really on like the lower end just because, I mean, I look at how tight that opening is. I'm like, oof. But if we saw a bit of pressure, the fact their MMR is that low tells me that Bolt, when like Zergling's pressure and stuff, just crumbles, right? That's what we now know. That MMR tells me there is like way more mistakes that happen when the pressure gets high that we didn't get to see in this replay. So, yeah. All right, guys, going into the next and final game to see if we can at least get 2 out of 3. I mean, I guess obviously in hindsight, that last game, I really should have realized that the lack of capitalizing on the advantage was a big sign. So credit where credit's due. Masters players, for the most part, would have, I think, pushed with a follow-up or had some more harassment or like scouting through that follow-up stage, whereas we could tell that, of course, Bolt got a bit too focused on just like, oh, I'm doing damage with the DTs, and then just kind of took forever to move across with that final push. So I think I was like, oh, I'm dropping it 1,000 MMR below my play. That should be enough to account for kind of what we're dealing with here, right? But yeah, you know, like as much as I'm like, look, it's hard to judge in those games because you don't get to see the adversity. I think we could have inferred the adversity just from a few lacking things, which meant they wouldn't have been able to handle that stuff. I should have dropped it even more. I don't think I ever would have guessed Diamond 1, but I think I could have dropped it to like maybe 4,300 MMR, being a bit closer just off the information we had. So anyway, I'm learning, I'm living and learning, guys. We've got Steel Orange down here who we're guessing is playing ZVZ versus My Ninja Joe, who's gone hatch first on the gold. So that's going to be really dangerous. Now, we're leaving an Overlord at home, completely unnecessary in Zerg versus Zerg. That's something you do against Terran and Protoss because of Cannon Rush or Bunker Rush. Zerg can't do that. So this Overlord should really have been heading across the map and be able to spot the gold. So Steel Orange is not going to be able to see the gold. Has gone for a pull first, but no Zergling pressure at all. So it feels like maybe Steel Orange is just doing like one of my beginner builds or something like that, keeping it reasonably chill, but with no early gas. Later hatchery. That feels awkward. On the other hand, the opponent only has 13 drones. So this is a... What? Oh. Okay. This is a Silver League build order, guys. They went Was this like 14 hatch on the gold? They've got like no drones and they're going 3 hatcheries. So guys, hatcheries are only useful if you actually spend the lava and actually start mining. Oh, this is an appalling build order for the blue player. So, I mean, okay. So Ninja Joe is playing at 55 APM versus 27 APM. We're going to see this very late hatchery. Don't realize anything untoward. Let's see. We injected, moved to the natural. Ling speed should have started a while ago. We've had a lot of gas. 4 lings are now building. Hello, Gold League, my old friend. The build order's too tight to be Silver League. That's what I'm saying so far. I don't think, unless Steel Orange really just, I mean, right now it's ZVZ. We don't have Ling speed. We don't have a Roach Horn. Okay, Roach Horn goes down. This is my beginner build. Yeah, this is definitely my beginner build order. Okay, I mean, Steel Orange is following the build pretty decently in the sort of one-size-fits-all format, is like droning up pretty well, spending the money. It can't be Silver League. It's got to be Gold League. But I feel like it'd be hard to make it to Platinum doing something that is this wide open in the early game in ZVZ. This will do a lot better for you what's being executed by Steel Orange right now in the other matchups. Also building a lot of queens, which is interesting. We're going to come and see. We still don't realize there's a gold base. And for some reason, our Overlord's flown into the main. Did we already lose an Overlord? No, but we're about to lose an Overlord in the main, which we haven't even looked at. Oh man, this is seriously low-level play. The other guy's build sucks so much. We're so far ahead just by like following a decent build order. And now we're going for the 44 third base. Okay. Now, we lost an Overlord, so we need to build like 4 Overlords right now to like make up for that, right? As well as like, hey, where's the next inject cycle going? So now that there's more things happening, okay, we're moving some Overlords out on the map, which is good. But where's the injects? Inject? Oh no, don't spread creep, eject, yeah, okay. But isn't spending the money either, oh no. Okay, so we see that Steel Orange does not have a macro cycle. A macro cycle is where you go inject, spend your lava, build Overlords, bam, bam, bam. And you always do it in the same sequence. The moment he injected a hatchery and then put a random tumor down, then injected, then put a tumor down, and only now, 20 seconds later, remembers to spend his money, big sign that it's not a super high level play. Also there boxed way more workers than we needed to put on gas. And we haven't built a single fighting unit 5 minutes into the game. We're building roaches. We're not moving our queen to the gap in the minerals. We haven't pulled our drones away. We're going to try and fight. I think this is a fight there's no way you can win. So the best bet there would have been to run the lings to the main, get the queens together in the mineral line, form a bit of a wall. And maybe we could do it. We're spreading creep in the chaos. No control groups for our queens either. We're going to try and fight now with roaches. Luckily, our opponent's not A-moving. We're going to try and do a bit of micro. Okay, fancy micro. Not transfusing, but not the worst micro. We're still up 4 workers at the end of that. I can't believe it. My lord. Oh man, CBZ is so funny. And okay, but we're building more roaches, which is totally fine. Let's see if Steel Orange builds the economy back up. This is a big question right now. It's like, right, okay, you built a big pack of roaches for defense. It should be now inject, redrone the natural, then redrone the third, squeeze roach speed in. Hey, roach speed goes down. We're building 2 more queens, which we really don't need more queens because we've shown that we don't actually use a queen control group. If you guys don't use a queen control group, you're not going to actively remember to transfuse, use them to help defend, or to spread creep very consistently. So as long as you've got an injecting queen at each hatchery, there's no real purpose to having extra queens unless you're going to put those on a control group so that you remember to use them, right? Doesn't have to be something you use all the time, but use 3 or 4 or something like that. Right now, hatcheries on 1, army on 2 is not a bad control group setup. But let's see. So we've got a roach randomly in the middle of the map. Okay, we're going to bring a queen to the front. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So we're always having to like look around and find where those queens are and like box it. You go here, you go, you know, you go there. Lings are coming in. Instantly, the roaches go over. Now, we are control grouping eggs, so there's a good bit of like mechanical muscle memory in there. Doesn't need to be doing anything but A-moving here, guys. Stutter step's kind of cute, but it's really not necessary because you're going to give them more surface area. The roaches are just fighting now, though. So overall, a very good fight for the roaches. But we didn't produce during that fight at all. We're now morphing an Overseer, and we're not producing at all. You can tell the panic is there. There's no way this is high-level play, right? Now we're producing. 10 drones just got made, and 3 Overlords. But Now the injects happen afterwards, right? So you can see it's kind of not in the macro cycle order that I talked about. So in the chaos especially, it gets disorganized. We're going to go for a roach counterattack, which could basically just win the game. We are using deselecting to put on gas. We're using it by pulling too many drones. So there's a mixture of advanced technique used a little less efficiently than an advanced player would. I mean, all this stuff tells me this player could be in Platinum League, just because the fact that even though they're not adapting to the matchup, they're not very aware of what their opponent's doing, the fact that Steel Orange is hitting their macro reasonably well, following a build order, and just continuing to get back into that despite the opponent flooding lings and stuff, and not just panicking and shitting the bed, just doing things like A-moving workers and stuff this is making me think it could be Platinum League. I'm probably still tending towards Gold 1, but it's making me think maybe Platinum. I don't think Ninja Joe could possibly be in Platinum League though. Could they? I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Oh my god. If so, like, okay, so Plat 3, Gold 1 is the range I'm thinking of right now. So Ninja Joe, do they use control groups? Let's take a look. I'm gonna use the opponent as a point of comparison. So no control groups, not even for the hatcheries for Ninja Joe. Ninja Joe at 65 APM literally is having to click every building, every unit, probably doesn't use the keyboard at all. I mean, this is super low level of play. Ninja Joe has heaps of money and gas, but is only building mutas in the main because this hatchery is not control group, even though it has like so much lava on it, 12 lava, and there's mass spine in the main. So yeah, I think Ninja Joe is probably a bit lower MMR than Steel Orange, but I still think Steel Orange here comes in at, I mean, it's such a new player. It could be lower in Gold League, but like it could be Gold 2, it could be Plat 3. I think Gold 1 is probably spot on the money though. Yeah, we're moving in, and this should just be a game-winning move now. So the mutas obviously will eventually clean it up, but not before you've lost what little economy is left in this main base. Now, there's no real production behind this, so we haven't really mastered, okay, cool, there's not much left to micro here. Just A-move the roaches, inject, build drones, build roaches, build hydras, and so on. So, okay, he's going to try to do it now. Hydra Den, makes sense. No spore crawlers yet, so we could take a lot of damage on the counter attack. We're building more roaches, which is fine. You can kind of defend the mutas just by attacking with more roaches. It forces them to stay at home. That way you don't need to build spore crawlers. We haven't injected during this, so you can tell like the muscle memory when the action's going, the brain's racing, and the muscle memory isn't there at the same level as it would be for a higher level player. All right, so these roaches are going across. We still haven't injected. Now we're going to build a spore, scroll to the natural, not using camera locations. Yeah, scroll to the natural, build another spore. Haven't really transferred workers. There we go. We're going to do that to the third. Build a spore there. Build a spore. No spore. We're building extra queens still. But once again, I feel like the queens are a really wasted investment if you're not going to be control grouping them. It just doesn't add value, right? But the roach is going to arrive again. We still don't know about the gold base, which is kind of hilarious. The roaches are just arriving at the front. We respond quickly to the attack warning. I'm looking for, I mean, everything the opponent does makes me think more and more it's like Silver League. But then I realize the opponent did take a gold hidden base. The opponent did take 3 hatcheries quickly. So as inefficient as they are, they also did like a big ling attack. All these things can make them kind of have higher MMR. And we are going for hydras now. The roaches are still rallied to the front. We still have not checked that top side of the map at all. You'd think our alarm bells would ring. Because like we haven't even really checked the third. Which is crazy to me, right? This is still a gold-based mining. It's insane. But for someone who I would say Steel Orange probably hasn't played more than 200 games. Upper limit. What do you guys think? 200? Definitely under 500 games, I would say, total. It's not necessarily the case because it obviously depends. If you spread those games over a long enough period, you're not improving as quickly, you're not remembering as much from game to game. You know, if you're not able to put as much energy into those games, it's different. Everyone improves at their own speed. But yeah, we're going Evos now. Looks like a little awkward with the control of our drones. We're trying to build more Roach Hydra. We've got so much money, but we're not producing right now. And remember, whenever we see an army, notice Steel Orange does not produce. Oh! Steel Orange pulled back and produced this time. And has the Hydra movement speed on the way. Should just cancel the hatchery, give it up. Cancel, cancel, cancel. No, we decided to spread a creep tumor and pull back that queen. And now we're injecting a hatchery, inject a hatchery, inject a hatchery. Not bad, not bad. I mean, we can easily crush this army, but I like the idea of if you're not sure how big that army is, pulling back and waiting. And now you see, hey, my army's way bigger. Okay, let's go kick some ass. Still spreading tumors. So there's this element of doing lots of things that Steel Orange has, which I'm really impressed with. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool. Steel Orange really should just go win the game now. You've got a big ball of units. It's clearly bigger than theirs. All right. The opponent, by the way, still not using any control groups. The Hydras and the Mutas are together. This is always one of the funniest things that I notice when I'm watching StarCraft is like players who, they go Mutalisks, but then they just control their whole army as one blob. And I'm like, the only time Mutas are useful if you're like flying around the back line, picking off workers, using their mobility, and people that just like smoosh their whole army in one big key. I'm like, oh no, don't do that, man. Don't do that. Ninja Joe's going to take a hatchery there and a hatchery here. Kind of like, I feel like this is like watching me play Brood War. The thing is, in Brood War, there isn't really a way to like do things easier, but Ninja Joe is doing things like the hardest way possible, where it's like click a drone, build hatchery in the bottom right, click it there, click a drone, build hatchery. Like, it's taken so long to give these orders. Oh, there's lurkers, watch out. Oh, Steel Orange is gonna run into the lurkers, guys. Is not watching the army, is not watching the army. Oh no, oh no. Oh my God, Steel Orange. Okay, the Overseer does come down and it looks like Steel Orange has just enough units that despite fumbling into a fight in the middle of the map into the lurkers and losing a lot of stuff, does end up having an Overseer with the army, brings it south, cleans it up. Whew, that was scary though. That was very scary. Only started one upgrade, by the way. Forgot to start the carapace. And should be able to move in and win this game now. I am absolutely locking in gold 1 on this, guys. I don't know about you guys. I'm going gold 1. Let's take a look at our MMR range for this. So it is, gold 1 is 2587 to 2720. Let's go for just flat, I think, 20. I'm going to maybe go just below gold 1, actually. I'm going to say 2550, I think. What do you guys think? 2550? 2550 would put us close to the bottom of gold 3 in the range. If it's silver 1, we're screwed. I'm okay with that. Because if we do that, it reaches into platinum 3 a little bit as well. 2550 reaches into the bottom of platinum 3. We could be wrong. Could be higher in plat 3. 2550, 2600. Oh my God, I can't decide. We are locking in 2550 MMR, which is in the higher range of gold 2. Let's see how we did. All right, 2550, come on, plus minus 200. Let's see if we can get 2 out of 3 for the first time ever. Let's go. 2550 is my guess. Oh, yes, 2509. Yes. Once again, within 50 MMR, just like the first guess. My second guess was off by a total of like, what, 700 or something like that. But my first and third guess, we got to see a bit more adversity, reacting to bad situations. We got to see a more full game, I think. And I'm very proud of myself. This is the very first show that I've won by getting 2 out of 3. And I feel like I'm improving, guys. I feel like I'm improving. And I learned a new lesson today, which is diamond and below players not as good at capitalizing on their leads. That was the one that I got way off. What I should have realized in that game was you're way ahead. And if you're just kind of like, what do I do now? That there is maybe a sign of not being in Masters League. I said mid-Masters because there was still some good build order stuff and it was still decent. But that's a new rule for myself, is if I see someone who's in that like tight build range, but after the early game, they kind of just chill. They don't use their advantage. They don't put the pressure on their opponent. They don't scout a lot and take the fight and stay active in the mid game and late game. That's a sign that's going to be diamond and below. So that's going to be something that I need to add to my repertoire. Still super stoked, guys. This is the very first time I've won this show. I'm still looking for that perfect 3 out of 3. Next week, it is coming. You know I'm going to hit this eventually. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this show and other content of me guessing people's MMR, checking out weird plays, ragey games, and all the rest of it, check out some of the other videos on the screen around me. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to submit your games, check the description below. You can also, of course, check out the Patreon in the link below. A massive appreciation to everyone who's been supporting the Patreon. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye and good night.